10 seconds.
Something to offer, the show that goes to the heart of people living their dreams, and we'll meet them in just a moment. My guest today is a woman who has always been concerned with public health awareness, advocacy, and education, and to support the development of the Latin American community. You know, many communities in our world get kind of slighted in terms of awareness, education, and so it is my pleasure to welcome a woman who has devoted a great amount of her time to that, and she is currently the Dean of Programs at New Jersey Seeds, which is a wonderful educational organization and not-for-profit that deals with young folks, and I'm going to let her share about that in a few minutes. It's my pleasure to welcome Marcy Lopez to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I wanted to ask you, what, growing up or in your early days, what family tradition or a holiday event or thing was kind of always something that you looked forward to or memorable, or maybe there was a certain food or at a certain time of year you did certain things? Can you share about that?
Sure.
Okay.
The first thing that comes to mind is Christmas. Mm-hmm. Growing up, Christmas, in the Latin American community, we celebrate Christmas Eve, so it's on the 24th. Mm-hmm. So it becomes a big party. Mm-hmm. And we would have Christmas at our home. Mm-hmm. And all our families from both my mother and my father's side would come together.
So it was a big party.
Huge party.
Mm-hmm.
There was food, there was dancing. There was Santa Claus would come at midnight, mm-hmm. and he would hand out gifts to all the kids. I soon found out that Santa Claus was my dad when he dressing up, but it was such a great experience growing up and just to have family together.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Mm-hmm. Growing up, did you ever feel left out of the loop in terms of opportunities because of your cultural heritage, or that doors might have been closed, or people just like failed to give you information that they gave other people? Not in a judgmental way, mm-hmm. or anything, but just...
No, definitely. I think growing up, I think that stigma was always a part. Mm-hmm. I knew that there was always strikes against me, if I would say. I even remember in my college essay, my first few lines was, you know, when I was born, I already had 2 strikes against me. I'm a woman and a woman of color. Mm-hmm. And I think growing up, there was a lot of situations that would remind you of you have to prove yourself a little bit more mm-hmm. than others would have to.
Yeah, because unfortunately, that's the way it's been around here for a while.
Yeah.
Was there ever an effort of an individual in the field of advocacy or public health whose efforts really lit a fire under you? Not yours, but theirs, like people that you've either mentored under or people you listened to or studied with?
Definitely. I held a position as the Director of Advocacy and Policy at the Latino Commission on AIDS. Mm-hmm. And at that position, I was under the late Dennis de Leon. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, he passed away last year. Mm-hmm. He himself was a huge scholar. He went to Stanford Law, mm-hmm. did lots of great work under Mayor Dinkins here in New York City. Mm-hmm. And he contracted the HIV virus. And mm-hmm. he was the first Latino in New York City to come forward with that.
Wow, and for your community, that's huge.
It's extremely huge.
There's a whole, I mean, I'm not trying to do stereotypical mm-hmm. things, but male Latin men, that's a very taboo. I mean, they don't want to hear about it, you know.
They don't. And it's still a taboo this day.
Right.
And a lot of our work and efforts when I was working under him was fighting those taboos and getting our community to understand that we need to have more conversations about this because it is happening. It's impacting our communities, and the more we don't talk about it and try to push it under the rug, the worse the problem's going to be. So being under his leadership and just seeing his tireless efforts, I knew I had nothing to complain about because he was there until 11 o'clock at night at his desk continuing his fight. In advocacy around HIV/AIDS in the Latino community. And it just fired me more to have that passion to do the same for my own community.
That's great. It's wonderful. Well, we're going to take a moment for an offering. When we get back, Marcy will share, you know, how she found her way into advocacy. I can't even say it right now. Advocacy. I just couldn't that moment. And where that journey took her and how it's evolved into really a little different branch, you know, a little more education. So we'll talk to you in just a minute. She's got a very exciting story, and we'll see you. We're back with Marcy. Marcy, let's talk a little bit about you have a wonderful degrees from Cornell and then from Columbia, the Mailman School of Public Health. Mailman, thank you. How did you, what inspired you to go that direction in school? Did you start off college with that degree in mind? Did you, did that come to you as you were there, or how did it happen?
So I remember being in high school, and I remember reading a statistic that 1/3 of Latinos didn't have health insurance, and that bothered me. And so I set out a path to make a difference in that. So I actually started a path of being pre-med and wanting to become a doctor and work in the health field. So I attended Cornell University with the help and push of my older sister. She was always a great mentor and kind of helped me get to that education. I was the first in my family to receive an Ivy League degree.
Wonderful.
So it was something new to our family and understanding. Because college education was just a great accomplishment in itself, so to even take that extra step. And then when I was at Cornell, I learned more about this field of public health and how I can help more people, and I could help the masses of people and populations versus just individual care. And I was fascinated by it. So I learned more and more about it, and when I first graduated from Cornell, I had a position at NYU Bellevue Hospital working, it was right after September 11th, so it was a respiratory study, studying the health effects of the residents down in the World Trade Center
Which we're
collapse.
seeing so much more about now, because now they have facility, they have, on the subways all the time, it says if you feel these things, go to this, city agencies and all kinds of things. I wanted to ask, and boy, you got a real testimony of fire being down there working in the after post 9/11. Did you find that being in the trenches, either in your internships or in reality, did it, was the academic thing so far from what the reality was, or did it pretty much match up? Do you know what I'm saying? Like when you're in school, you get all the book stuff and you hear about all the cases and stuff, but then when you're in it, was there a big disparity, or were you pretty well set up? Did you feel like?
I think there was definitely a mix of both. Because I did that work and then I went into Columbia Mailman School, so I brought that experience into the classroom, and a lot of my peers in the program department I was in, they needed at least 2 years of working experience. So it was definitely such a great mixture that we can speak of our real life experience and also talk about the theories and how can we better that, and what are the models that are working, and do they work with this particular community or do they not? And we have to create a whole new model to help this community better themselves.
Right, exactly. So what was your process like to get your first job in the field, and what did that job encompass? And then I would love to talk about, you worked on several great programs for the Latino community. So
yeah, so basically my first entrances, it was through networking. I went to an event from Cornell. It was a women's dinner, so there was alumni women there, and then us graduating seniors. And I discussed, and I said, I am interested in public health, and there was someone there who knew of an opening, and my door was open. And so that, for me, is where education is so hugely, and the networks you create within your education institutions
your
and things like
that.
Yes. Because I would say, from at this point, all of my jobs that I have received and the work I've been doing has all been through networks. It's that old saying, you know, it's who you know. Well, I don't believe it's not so much not what you know, because you do need the what you know with the backing. But definitely, I believe in the power of network and the power of knowing people and sharing what you want to do, and people will listen.
So, what was your first job like? What did it encompass?
Well, it was the position at NYU doing the World Trade Center.
Oh, okay. So I was thinking that was like an internship, but okay.
Oh, no.
So after that one, after Millman, then I'm sorry, it wasn't that I wasn't listening. I was thinking like, okay, that was okay. What happened after that?
Then I went to Columbia, and after Columbia, and when I graduated, I got the position with the Latino Commission on AIDS. I worked with them for about 2 years and doing such great work.
Right.
And then I landed a position with an organization called the National Latino Council on Alcohol and Tobacco Prevention.
Right.
And that we did a lot of alcohol and tobacco policy work across the country within Latino communities.
So now, when you say you did a lot of work in policy within the communities, did you go out and speak to communities? Did you have like events where you had like, you know, multi-faceted things, and then this was just part of it? How does it work when you educate and advocate and awareness?
There was definitely multi-layers. So there was a lot of public speaking and presentations in the community. There was a lot of workshops and just training communities on community mobilization, on how to organize, how to set a goal for your community and how to achieve that. A lot of my work was working with elected officials, and it was also teaching our community members how easy it is to just pick up your phone and you can speak to your representative, and they're there to listen to you. And it was a lot of education in that aspect of it. And we did a lot of policy agendas, so creating a lot of sign-up letters. So there was a pressing issue. We created a letter, and we had individuals, we had organizations sign on to this letter, because we all know the power of numbers. And so we wanted communities to understand that once you unify and you come together, you can make a difference and you can let your voice be known.
Right. So can I ask, when you go in and do that kind of work, and then you walk away, do you go back and do a spot check? Do you go to see if the power of what you brought to them has affected a change for them individually, or do you just got to hope that it works? I mean, I don't know, when you do the kind of work you do, how much, you know, follow through you get to do later. How does it work?
That's actually a really great question, because that's actually part of the frustration in advocacy work, because what you're looking for most of the time is long-term change, so you don't have such immediate results in the push that you're pushing for. So what we do within communities is we kind of work on, when you set your agenda, your policy, is like, you have your long-term goal, but then let's set like some short-term milestones that we know once we reach it, we are making a difference and moving in the right direction. One example is when I was doing my HIV/AIDS policy and advocacy work, we were, for the first time, creating a national Latino AIDS action agenda. And this was actually a dream of Dennis de Leon, was to have communities, people living with HIV/AIDS, elected officials, government agencies, religious leaders. We all came down into a room for a 2-day summit down in Washington, D.C. in 2008. And we sat and we strategized and we said, these are the issues that are happening in our community, and this is what we want to see happen. And at the end of those 2 days, we created an actual document. And yet, they're still fighting with that document, but the fact that that document lives and that it is in existence is a milestone and an accomplishment in itself.
Right, and it's still being viewed and worked
and pushed. And so now our community has this, and they can go into the door of their Congress member or their city council member and say, look, here it is, it's written down. We've already found our solutions. Now, what are you going to do about it?
That's great. Yeah, because, you know, you wonder how that all works. I mean, sometimes it's very obvious. You know, you advocate for some elder person, you know, for medical, and then you can see the result. But when it's a huge kind of a, you know, kind of change where you have to kind of change a whole, you know, thought process of a whole country, even really, not just even just our, you know, just our city or our. It's kind of staggering to think about how the ripple effect comes to play. So I wanted to know how that works. So I thank you for telling me that.
You're welcome.
We're going to take a moment for another offering. When we get back, we're going to, you know, Marcy's done a little shift, and we're going to hear all about that. It's really quite wonderful. So it's about seeds and our young people and planting the seeds and helping them really flourish in their dreams and goals. We'll see you in just a moment. We're back with Marcy. So, Marcy, at some point last year, a little bit I was going to say last year, a little bit earlier in this year, but who knows, by the time this gets on, it could be last year. A shift occurred. What prompted that? Were you, you know, you were doing your work, and then I know there was an event where you were working with young folks, and then why don't you share about that, and then how that sort of, the light bulb went on, I guess.
Sure. Well, a lot of the work, I mean, I spent the last 10 years doing advocacy work. And one thing I noticed in the work I was doing, that our youth don't have as much of a voice as I would see that I want them to, or that they should have in this world. And so that caused a stir inside of me, and I wanted to do something about it. So I started looking at different venues and different ways I can get involved with young people. And the event that you were speaking of is I was working with Girls Inc. And it was the office of Westchester County. And they had plans and started planning together, and I became part of the planning committee for a conference called Latina Claim Your Future. And it was great because it was a play on words with the Latina, so they spelled it L-A-T-E-E-N-A. So it was focused towards the teens. Yes. So it was focused towards high school teenage girls in Westchester County of Latina descent, and having them sit in a room and discuss their future. And discuss, well, what is life after high school? What are my options? Because unfortunately, we see within the Latino community that Latina girls have one of the highest dropout rates in high school in this country. And so they decided they wanted to do something about it.
Statistically, do they know why? Is it pregnancy? Is it, you know, like getting involved with a life that becomes more like a family life? Or?
There's a slew of issues. Teen pregnancy is definitely one of them. Unfortunately, that is something that is also high amongst Latina young girls in this country. It's also just socioeconomic statuses and situations.
They just have to work or help their families
and things of that sort. A lot of our young Latinas are first generation in this country. Their parents have migrated to this country, so they're helping support their family. They're adjusting and learning to what it is in this community and how to adjust and survive and be able to work within this community. So there's
also some of them are sending back to their homes in their countries that they're from too. I know they're sometimes taking care of people that aren't here.
Yes. Yeah. So they are having an income, but the income is going back to their home countries of origin. And a lot of actually what's seen as part of a solution and what's lacking is mentorship for these young Latina girls. This idea that there is something bigger out there for me. I can achieve that. It's not just for someone else. And so that's what this conference was doing. And so I sat there, I got inspired, and I knew that working with youth was my next step and what I wanted to do for a long time. So
knowing that, and I know we chatted before, you have a new career as a program director of New Jersey Seeds with an S. But you also said that generally speaking, a person would more frequently have to go back to school to do what you're doing. And when we talked, you said a lot of people would go back and need like more education for, I think that's what you said to me on the phone when we were talking. You did, right? Or did I misunderstand you? You said, I don't need an MSW, I don't need to do all these things. You
okay,
said,
yes. So now I understand.
Now you understand. I meant you yourself.
Me, myself, yes.
Yeah,
so
and you created, an opportunity came up for you and you met it, but some other people couldn't. Like you made an impossible thing possible as well because of your experience, I think.
Yeah, and it's some other way. So it was a year ago where I was at a point where I knew I wanted to do this work, and I wanted to learn how do I shift from doing all this policy advocacy on kind of a leadership level and management level, and how do I redirect that and work directly with youth. And in my search for a new career path, I noticed that a lot of the positions that work directly with youth, you either needed a lot of youth experience or you needed MSW, a master's in social work. And I had neither. And so that was a bit of a frustration. And I thought, okay, what do I do? How do I do this? Because I knew in my heart that this is what I wanted to do. So I just kept doing the work, and that's where, when I was working with that Latina conference, that was totally my free volunteer time, wanting to do that. I also gained a mentee through a program called New York Youth at Risk, and I developed a relationship with him. Over this summer, I also worked with another organization out in Staten Island called Community by Community, and worked with 3- and 4-year-olds of children that are children of Mexican descent, and working with them education-wise. So I basically—
You gave yourself your own schooling through volunteering.
Yes, and I knew that this is what I wanted to do, so I needed to be out there and gain that experience some way or another. And so I started doing that, and then the opportunity came. I received a phone call about this opportunity at New Jersey Seeds, and it was a perfect fit for what I wanted to do. And they liked me, I liked them, and now I'm with them.
Okay, so why don't we talk a bit about New Jersey Seeds and what goes on there, and a little bit about the program, because I'm not sure how much time we have left, but they'll let us know. But I think we have a few minutes to get into some in-depth about New Jersey Seeds.
So I'm currently the Dean of Programs at New Jersey Seeds, and what we do is an educational nonprofit that works with high academic achieving youth with limited financial means. And so we're in the state of New Jersey, and we have youth from all over New Jersey that are academically, they're great, and they're great. We call them scholars, and we have a scholars program and a young scholars program. And we also have a new program, which is a college preparatory program. And they're students that we know can do better, and so what we do is we have them come. They're in an academic rigorous program with us, and we prepare them to go into—
Excuse me, that hardly ever happens. Of course, I did it right into the mic. I'm sorry, everybody there. Thank you.
So we prepare them for independent schools. So in my program itself is the Scholars Program. I have 8th graders. I have 94 8th graders, and they're with us every Saturday. Every Saturday, they're having an academic rigorous course with us. We're preparing them for the experience of being in an independent school. And then in the summer, we also have what we call the boarding experience, where for 3 weeks, we actually have them at a school, at a boarding school, and we're with them doing the academic preparation, because our goal is to have them attend a boarding school or a private day school.
Wow. So what is a typical Saturday like for the young people? It starts off at what time? How long does it go? Do they just go through course studies, or is there a little bit of light breaks in there? Or, you know, what's it like for them? And then we'll talk about what a week is like for you in preparing for all this too.
Sure. So on Saturdays, they are to be at the school, at their school site. We have 3 separate school sites. They are to be at the school site at 8:30. But for some of our children, their day on Saturday starts at maybe 6 a.m. Because we have bus transportation that we provide for them to get them to the school. So they have to wake up extra early to be at that bus stop, so the bus can pick them up and the other students along the path and take them to their school site. So these are dedicated young people who really do want to make a difference in their life. So they come with us. In the fall, we prepare them to take their SSAT, which is the entrance exam for private schools.
Right.
And in the spring, we prepare them, they take math, they take language arts and a science course. And the whole purpose is for them to understand the level of academic rigor that goes on within independent schools, and that they're prepared for that, so that once we help them get into these private schools,
they're going to be successful.
They're going to be successful, yes.
Right.
And we also have an alumni program, so we support them. So once they're in the school, we definitely support them even in the school there, and we check in with them and work with them. So it's not just a one-time deal. We're with them with life.
Right. Now, what is your week like? I mean, what are your days spent doing there, and I guess in preparation for the weekend, and then in preparation for, I know you help them fill out papers and all kinds of things to make the processes for these young people to get into these special schools possible.
Definitely. So in the fall, what we do is they have a common application where they need to fulfill. So my day during the week, basically a lot of my work is with communication with the families and the parents. A lot of it is having the parents understand the importance, and they also have a cultural shock when it comes to this work and the difference between boarding school, that it's not a difference than just another regular school, and it's a better education. A lot of our parents, it's difficult. You know, they have 13-year-olds, and we're asking them to consider sending them away. And this, especially within a lot of our communities, where family is so important, and
scary proposition.
It's a huge proposition. So a lot of my work during the days, I work very closely answering parents' questions, easing their fears or concerns, as well as just preparing for the weekend and making sure that the students are getting their homework done. At each of our sites, or our 3 sites, we have a site dean that oversees that site. So communicating with them, supporting them, and supporting our scholars as well.
Watching the progress of the students and everything.
Yes.
Wow, it's great. It's so wonderful. We probably have like about a minute and a half left. I guess I'd like to ask, has your journey been a surprise to you in any way, or did you, you know, just where are you at with this all, and what do you feel your mission is in the future, and where do you hope to go, I guess would be, it's a big question, but yeah.
But actually, you know, it has been a surprise, and for once I've accepted, and I like that. I think a lot before, when I was building my career, I had this plan and I had this goal and I had to reach it. And then I did reach my goal, and then it was, okay, what now? And that was a scary transition, and this past year was very scary for me, trying to bring into a new career. But now that I'm here, I know I'm where I'm supposed to be. I know the work I'm doing is what I'm supposed to be doing. And the fact that I've achieved a dream of mine, and now that I'm helping young people achieve their dreams, it's just an amazing feeling.
Yeah, it can't get much better than that. So we're about out of time, but what would you say to people going after a dream, or something that they should try to hang on to or remember?
Be consistent and persistent.
That's great. Marcy, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being here. Go after your dream. None are too big or too small. You can do it. We'll see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you.